what Justin did, literally coming straight out of college, knowing that his whole college career would essentially be gone. He went and did it anyway. He was like, this is so important that people need to know this. And then he went to the very people that are supposed to be bringing it to the public. And that would be James O'Keefe, Project Veritas, O'Keefe Media Group. And they didn't do anything with it. He came right up to me and he's like, hey man, James O'Keefe is a fraud. And I just turned to him. I was like, yeah, I could have told you that. He's like, well, no, but I have the receipts.
Hey friends, Sean from SGT Report here with a very, very important update, a blockbuster report. That was my friend Marty Leeds, and what he's talking about is one of the most important stories of the past several years being buried at Project Veritas. In the midst of the Pfizer vaccine rollout, while people were rolling up their sleeves and being told the bioweapon was safe and effective. Friends, if Veritas means truth, then why did James O'Keefe and the leadership at Project Veritas bury this incredible story and hours of undercover footage at Pfizer? You're not going to want to miss this one, and you're not going to want to miss the documentary about it, which I will leave linked below. Thanks so much for tuning in. Before we start, just a quick word about our sponsor. Have you ever wondered what happened to the legendary Chuck Norris? You know, I recently saw a video he made, and I was shocked. He's in his 80s, and he's still kicking butt and working out and staying very active. What's even more shocking is he's stronger. Evidently, he can work out longer, and he has plenty of energy left over for his grandkids. He did this by making one change. He says he still feels like he's in his 50s. His wife even started doing this one thing too, and she's never felt better. She says she feels 10 years younger, her body looks leaner, and she has energy all day. Chuck made a very special video that explains everything. Make sure you watch it by going to chuckdefense.com/SGT or click the link below this video. It will change the way you think about your health. Once again, that's chuckdefense.com/SGT, and click the link in the description box below to watch the video now. You won't believe how simple it is. Watch his method. The link to the free video is below. chuckdefense.com/SGT. Well, welcome back, friends. Thank you so very much for tuning in. It's Sean from SGT Report. Gotta tell you, I'm fit to be tied today. You know, I just shared some personal information off the record with my good friend, Marty Leeds. He's a filmmaker. He's an author. He's a personal friend for which I would vouch in a court of law. He's a good man. Today, we're going to talk about an incredible undercover journalist, a Project Veritas whistleblower by the name of Justin Leslie, who uncovered some unbelievable admissions. I think a terabyte of footage, some 9 hours of undercover footage at Pfizer. Can you believe that? The man is smart enough that he was able to infiltrate Pfizer and get a job and get some of the scientists admitting incredible things on undercover video. One example, I can play the soundbite too, just one of the examples, a Pfizer scientist regarding the experimental mRNA gene therapy masquerading as a vaccine. She said, this was no time to think. It was a time to act, as they rolled out a bioweapon that has maimed and killed people all over the planet. Just to remind you guys, my good friend Marty Leeds has produced incredible documentaries about Pizzagate. He's got one that I really love called Deconstructing NASA. He's also done Deconstructing Elon Musk. He's done incredible work. Marty, welcome back.
Thank you for having me, Sean. Thank you. Always good to talk to you.
Always good to talk with you, my friend. And let me just start by saying, I do not seek infighting. It's abhorrent to me. I don't like infighting, and there's an awful lot of it in our space. But I think we need to talk about this because, let's just say it, James O'Keefe may not be who he says he is. And I'll let you take it from there. Where do you want to start?
Well, James O'Keefe is not who he says he is, and that's actually one of the things that we addressed in the documentary Project Whistleblower. In fact, one of the first admissions you'll hear as soon as you turn on the documentary is that James O'Keefe went to Bohemian Grove. And the kid, I call him the kid because I'm just an old man at this point, you know, but Justin Leslie is absolutely brave. You know, American hero is really what he is. He worked directly with James O'Keefe at Project Veritas and O'Keefe Media Group, one of his top journalists. And a bunch of people that he had worked with found out that he was going to some men's retreat center during the exact week, of course, when they meet at the Grove. And so a bunch of people found this out and they questioned him, and then they ended up quitting. And then Justin actually ended up getting not only an admission on audio several different times, but he also found the tent slip of tie binders, as I think is the camp that he's going to be at. So James O'Keefe lied to his crew, lied to his journalists and things like that, and then went to Bohemian Grove. And so Justin basically was he was working at Project Veritas and O'Keefe Media Group, and the reason that he went to them in the first place is because he was a scientist inside Pfizer working directly on the vaccine, and he found out when he was in there, he kind of figured this out waking up when he started working there, that the whole COVID-19 was, that whole thing was a charade. It was all a lie. It was all, spellcraft and wizardry, if you will. And so he did some of the bravest things I've ever seen a young man do, and did everything in his power to expose it. And he did.
And they're sitting on some, what is it, 9 hours of undercover footage. And it's
Oh,
really, really, oh, go ahead.
more than that. Yeah. Basically what happened is that the only footage that you'll see in the documentary, which is incredibly damning, and you can watch it yourself, highly recommend you do. That's only some of the footage that he got, just little bits and pieces. There's a terabyte worth of a terabyte hard drive worth of all of this inside footage that he got while inside Pfizer. So while he was a scientist working directly on the vaccine inside Pfizer, he was recording. And he's got admissions, tons of admissions. Like one of the guys that worked there said that he gamed the FDA to try to push the children's vaccine through and all this other stuff. But all of the footage that he got is now in the hands of Project Veritas on a hard drive, and they haven't released it, and they didn't release it at the time. So it's incredibly damning to James O'Keefe. It's incredibly damning to a lot of the people, especially associated with those organizations as well. So.
Yeah. Well, let's listen to Justin in his own words. I've got this clip queued up. You guys can find this excellent documentary, which was edited, painstakingly edited, with the help, of course, of Justin. But Marty Leeds is the guy who put this thing together, and this must have taken forever. Let me just play this clip. This is Justin in his own words, finally coming to the realization that maybe Project Veritas isn't even what he thought it was when he joined.
I began to question the veritas of the people I worked with and the people I worked for. As it turned out, my newfound career as an undercover journalist would lead me to investigate a new story, and that was James O'Keefe himself. Somehow, I had gone from college grad to master's student to Pfizer scientist to whistleblower to undercover journalist. Now, I had a new role to take on, and that was double agent, or an insider to the insiders.
Now, just to be clear, I'm coming back to you, Marty. He didn't want to do this. This is not why he joined Project Veritas. He didn't do it to become a double agent. He did it because he felt duped. He did all of this incredible undercover work at Pfizer to get the truth out to the world, and Project Veritas is sitting on it. Why are they sitting on it?
He graduated college with a degree in biomedical sciences. So immediately he graduated college and he really couldn't find a degree or couldn't find a job. And so he ended up going back to get his master's. And while he was getting his master's, he, needed money and work and stuff like that. And so he ended up basically just, sending out resumes to a bunch of different places. Well, Pfizer got back to him. And so while all of this was happening and he gets the, job applicant or, the job at Pfizer, he starts waking up to the COVID. So as he's inside and he's seeing all this stuff that is really questionable, he immediately contacts Project Veritas because they were the people that are like, hey, be brave, do something, contact us, we'll help you out, right? And so then he starts working directly with them, gets all of this footage, and then they sit on it. And the reason that they said they sat on it was because he broke some, while doing this, he broke some recording consent statutes in the state of Connecticut, I think is what it was. The only problem with this is that they gave him, Project Veritas gave him all the recording equipment to do this. And the lawyers at the time knew exactly what they were doing. So it's, that's essentially aiding and abetting by Project Veritas. But not only that, they buried it. And if you know anything about the law, Justin's story would absolutely have been covered by the Whistleblower Protection Act. That's one of the reasons that they have that law, so that if you're working inside somebody, organization or group or whatever it is, a company, and you find that they're doing stuff that the public has a right to know, then this law will protect you. But Project Veritas never used that law, and then they just buried everything, and that was it. And the important point that we talked a little bit about this off the air is that while Justin was getting all of this footage of these people, directly working on the vaccine, saying essentially this is BS, right? All of this really questionable stuff. I'm sure we'll hear some of it. While this was all happening inside, Pfizer was telling you safe and effective, 100%. Take the jibbity jab. And so it's proof positive 111% that these people are guilty of crimes against humanity.
Yeah. Well, guess what? I'm going to jump ahead to a soundbite I was saving for later, because what you just said about Pfizer's claims that this juicy magical vaccine is safe and effective, 99% effective at preventing serious illness and death, when in fact the opposite is true. It's causing serious illness and death. I have this bite queued up. Let's listen to it.
People another experimental injection? Like, are we sure it's going to be safe and effective? Or are we just rolling these out because we want to roll them out for money?
Okay, this is the exchange between he and the scientist, the Pfizer scientist, the female scientist. Let me look. What's her name? Conwal Gill, correct?
Correct. Yep.
All right, listen to this.
Like,
yeah, this is a real-time data that we are generating. We don't even know. When we started vaccinating people, we had no idea how it's going to look like. mRNA vaccines have been there for 15 years, no, but nothing made to clinical. Why? Because mRNA vaccines have been known to have side effects.
right. But
Moderna has been working on it for 10 years. This is not the new thing, right? But why it did not reach trial was because of all these side effects. We, Pfizer and Moderna, used the emergency and the pandemic to kind of get through it now.
okay.
But we didn't. But even CDC noted we
So
don't
it
have
could
data.
never get FDA approved until we had this emergency, right? Like, we had to try something new. So, but why didn't we try like a vaccine formulation that has been effective in the past, like with egg yolk or something that they used with flu, right?
Yeah, so we here did not do it because we already have collaboration with BioNTech on flu before actually COVID happened. So mRNA. So what the story behind we starting on this, because BioNTech guy Sahil, the BioNTech CEO, he called Catherine Jensen.
Same.
Yeah, he called Catherine Jensen and he's like, hey, I have this technology, but I don't have resources to make it big. So Catherine was like, well, we had a collaboration in place before for flu. So we wanted to give it a shot. It is a new mRNA thing. Nobody knew anything about it. We never had it. We never had this. Everything is just fresh from last
Kind of like
year.
learning on the fly.
So it was on a fly. Pandemic, just roll it out. There was no time to think. It was a time to act.
All right, so that's the soundbite I mentioned previously. Marty, I don't think that woman is necessarily inherently evil. She probably got her dream job. They brought her in from India and she's just following orders and not thinking. But I guess that's what they want at Pfizer. Scientists who don't think, huh?
It's 100%. And that's exactly what Justin Leslie would say, too, that a lot of these people would be considered, no offense to Conwal Gill. She seems like a really nice person, but a useful idiot. She was brought in from India and it's like dream job, as you were saying. And of course, if she was going to, pull the, raise the red flag or, sound the alarm on this sort of stuff, that would be her job. That would be her, all the years that she spent in college, everything that would be, so they're not going to do that. And hence why what Justin did, literally coming straight out of college, knowing that his whole college career would essentially be gone, he went and did it anyway. He was like, this is so important that people need to know this. And then he went to the very people that are supposed to be bringing it to the public. And that would be James O'Keefe, Project Veritas, O'Keefe Media Group. And they didn't do anything with it. And just to make a point too, is that Justin spent the last several years knowing this, but not being able to say anything, because no one would essentially no one would believe him. And so I met him at a conference called Music and Sky. He came right up to me and he's like, hey man, James O'Keefe is a fraud. And I just turned to him, I was like, yeah, I could have told you that. He's like, well, no, but I have the receipts. And then he told me his story. And when he told me his story, I was like, this is one of the most incredible things I've ever heard. I'm like, I have to work with this guy. And so from there, that was, I don't know when that was, but the next, 5 months or whatever it was, we just went to task and put it together. You're a journalist. I'm a journalist, right? And we actually have years of putting documentaries and this sort of stuff together, right? Any journalist has a right to, and in fact, James O'Keefe says this in the documentary. Any journalist has a right to publish anything, and the United States government has never gone after a journalist for publishing information. So that was one of the things that we had to actually look into as far as like, lawyers and legalities and stuff like that. And at the end of the day, we realized it's like, well, no, this is totally like, is this in the public interest? Absolutely. Absolutely. You can't tell me it isn't. And anybody that's watched the documentary sees that it is.
Yeah, 100%. And again,
100%.
I'll leave the link to the documentary below, guys. But you can see what this criminal government has done to Julian Assange. Edward Snowden had to flee the country. We don't have any whistleblower protections in this country anymore, Marty. Look at the Boeing whistleblowers. 2 of them are now dead.
Well, this is the thing that shows like truly how brave the kid is, because when he was doing this, it's like he realized that the people that he was working with and for and that sort of thing were absolute scumbags. And not only that, they're mafioso characters, which means his life could have very well could have been on the line. And that's something that we had to consider very much when we started working together. It's like, well, they're going to come after us. Well, at the end of the day, I work for God Almighty. That's it. So if they want to come after me and kill me, well, then that's fine. God will rush me up and whatever, rush me up to swing the pearly gates open for doing what is right and what is good and true and that sort of thing. And I just have the opinion that at the end of the day, pardon my language, but I don't give a shit about what these people have to say or the threats or any of that sort of stuff. I'm going to do what's right. We're going to get the truth out and we're going to do whatever it takes. And that's his attitude as well. And that's why I said, I don't know if I mentioned this here yet, but he's really setting the example for the rest of us right now. He's a 26, 27-year-old kid, and he's really just really impressing this, 45-year-old man. So
Yeah. All right. Well, let me play another soundbite. This time, I believe it's an exchange between Justin, and by the way, is his code name Bam? Is that right?
bam. Yeah, and it's after 1 Corinthians 9:22, I think is what it is, and it's basically by all means.
Okay. So that's Justin's Project Veritas code name, if that happens to come up in these clips, guys. So here's an exchange between Justin and Daniel Strack at Project Veritas about that footage that's been buried. And Justin wants to know why and where is the footage. Who is Daniel Strack before I play the clip?
He's basically he part of I think the legal counsel of Project Veritas. So they had like outside counsel, inside counsel, that sort of stuff. So they had let's just say, and they still do have a very robust legal team, right? So, but their claims about is like, oh, we couldn't do this because of the legalities. Well, that doesn't make any sense, because your legal team, if they were worth the salt at all, should have known right away that this would be breaking laws. And so they wouldn't have gone forward with it. But they strung him along for literally months while he was getting all this footage inside Pfizer, did nothing with it, took all the footage, took it off the server. We've got all the footage of all the screenshots of them taking it off the server, them admitting that it's on a hard drive. And guess who doesn't know about it? The public.
Mm-hmm. I meant to ask you, just popped back in my head. Is Connecticut a dual consent state, meaning you can't lawfully tape somebody undercover without their consent? So obviously you can't get undercover footage. Is that the issue?
100%. And so this is such a basic of the law. The idea that the lawyers did not know this is absurd. You either have the worst lawyers in the world or you're corrupt. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, And so the idea that, and they're still doing this. James O'Keefe is still right now training people to like go get footage and all this other stuff, and not, as far as we know, because he didn't teach anybody that works for Project Veritas, not teaching them about the basics of recording consent laws. The only thing about that makes this a little bit different is that when he was recording this stuff, what he was doing was recording things that were absolutely in the public's right to know, which means I don't care about your stupid state statutes. This goes straight to Fed. This goes straight to whistleblower protection. And that's exactly what he is. Not according to him, not according to you, not according to me, according to James O'Keefe and everybody that worked with him. He was a whistleblower.
Yeah. Okay. No, I get it.
Yeah.
So here's the clip between Justin Leslie and PV's Daniel Strack, because Justin's really sick and tired of being strung along with all this important footage that he knows he got, not getting out to the public. So he wants to know, where is the footage one last time before he makes a very important decision in his own personal life?
The next clip you'll hear is from the resignation call I made to the Project Veritas COO, Daniel Robert Strack. I asked him where the hard drive and the terabytes worth of documents and footage went.
Bam.
Hey Dan, how's it going?
Good, how are you? What's going on?
I have one quick question for you. I had a conversation with Villani. Obviously, I know the whole situation with when I was a Source insider. And the information that I obtained, it was moved off the server. I was just curious where it actually is now. Is it with legal? Okay. All right. Is it with outside counsel or inside counsel? Oh, I'm just curious. All right. Well, yeah. And I would, you know, it's obviously tough to say this, but I wanted to let you know that I'm resigning. Yeah, unfortunately.
I also have the recording of me speaking with Nathaniel, aka Carrot Top, an intern at PV, who eventually went to OMG and was James's right-hand man, who said that Hannah Giles was told to leave the Massachusetts footage alone.
And then she said, and she also talked about your footage in Massachusetts. And James said this. She also brought up Dan's footage in Mass that told her to leave it alone. She said she's being asked about it.
Interesting.
Okay, so it went right to the top. Okay, wasn't Daniel Strack, it was James O'Keefe himself ordering that the footage stay buried. But of course, James probably takes his marching orders from the attorneys ultimately, right?
Yeah, Daniel Strack, excuse me, was the COO. So I apologize, I got that incorrect. But yeah, I mean that's basically it. And so because he couldn't get the footage back, he only got the few pieces that you see in the documentary, which by the way are incredibly damning once you see them. He couldn't get those, you know, the rest of it back. So what he did is one of the bravest things I've ever seen somebody do is he went and corroborated his story, and he essentially secretly recorded these people. Now, what's interesting is that some of these people that are featured in this documentary are now coming out and on Twitter and that sort of stuff, being like, yeah, they're frauds. They're frauds. I work directly with them. They're not who they say they are. That sort of stuff. They're backing up Justin's story. Not only that, it's not just Justin's story that was buried. There's several different segments in the film too about all of the other things that you never saw. One of them being Raymond Burchard came right to James O'Keefe when he worked at O'Keefe Media Group, excuse me, and showed that there is a child trafficking network running openly on Twitter. James O'Keefe did a whole piece on it. You never heard about it. Do you mean to tell me that's not public knowledge?
Oh my God.
So, yeah.
Wayfair cabinets going for $12,000 a piece with the names of missing children. I mean, it's just you've done their documentaries on it. You know, Pizzagate's real. They never debunked a damn thing, and now we have 85,000 missing immigrant children because of the open borders and Pedo Joe's policies and the Jew Mayorkas's policies. Marty, it's just an absolute horror show. All right, I want to say one thing regarding James O'Keefe. This is just a personal comment. You know, I've always respected the guy. I admired him. I thought, okay, he's blowing open big stories. But you know what this really made me feel like last night when I was watching your piece? My epiphany was this. The Veritas videos, okay, they're important, don't get me wrong, but the Veritas videos are noise to make us feel like smart people are getting to the root of the corruption in our country, like somebody's doing something. While the truth is we're being gutted and conquered every single day. As we speak, we're being gutted and conquered. And I think if James O'Keefe is simply playing a role he's not who he says he is, it's because this is that limited hangout we the people are given to make us feel like somebody's doing something to save the republic. Do you think I have that right or wrong?
I think you just knocked it out of the park there, Sean, because that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. Basically, it's just a theater. It's a little show. It's a little play that's put in front of you to say, "Oh, look at that. We got some of our top journalists on this, and we're getting the CIA, and guess what? The reason when the kid came to me and said, you know, it was like, hey, James O'Keefe's not who he says he was. And I said, I was like, well, I could have told you that. The reason I already knew that is because nothing ever happens with his stories. And anything that actually does happen with his stories did not come from James O'Keefe. In fact, we show that in the documentary. One of the people that actually did get fired for pushing the DEI, what is it, diversity, equity, and inclusion, that sort of stuff, was just some low-level principal at a school. And guess who did? It wasn't James O'Keefe that got the story. It was Justin Leslie.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
well, one of the things that's always rubbed me wrong about O'Keefe is his enormous ego and his desire to be in his own music videos. I bump on it. You know what I mean? That doesn't work for me, but you know, everybody do their own thing. I just want to show people the OMG launch party. Again, it's just really a cult of personality. Check this out.
Remaining by my side are a small, tight-knit group of the most elite journalists in the world. Exposing corruption requires standing up to power because power hates sunlight. We are sunlight. Welcome to the O'Keefe Media Group, where we will never be shut down. because not only do I own it, but you own it too. Support us and sponsor our army of journalists by becoming a founding member today.
I think y'all can see what I'm saying here. I mean, the OMG launch party? What'd they spend on that, man? Honestly, who funded that?
Well, it's it's supposed to be a nonprofit organization, and the important point in that clip is where he says a tight-knit group of people that came from Project Veritas to OMG. Well, do you know who one of those top journalists was that he was lauding? Justin Leslie. In fact, not that many people, as far as I know, actually went from Project Veritas and followed him. Justin did. And the reason he did is because he knew he was a slimeball. He knew he was a scumbag, and he had more of a story to get, which just goes to show, just once again, just how ballsy Justin is.
Let me rewind and ask you about the claim that James O'Keefe went to Bohemian Grove. How do we know that? What is the evidence that backs that up? And and James O'Keefe lied about it if he did indeed go. So what's the evidence that shows he absolutely 100% went to Bohemian Grove?
He says it multiple times. He's got the recordings of him saying it. He also has the tent slip of him going to Bohemian Grove. It's the tie binders, I think, is the camp is what it is. He also has recording of him telling his team that they have to be active on Twitter and stuff like that because he doesn't want anybody know that he's gone for the week. He tells also the team that's working directly with him all of this undercover footage that I don't know if it says it directly, but that he told them that he's going to some men's retreat camp or something like that, which is the exact week that was the Bohemian Grove. And he says this numerous times. And then not only that, after this whole documentary went out, Justin Leslie called him directly and asked him about him going to Bohemian Grove, and he says, I have no comment. So there's several people that actually work directly at OMG that when they found this out, they quit. Several of them are actually mentioned in the documentary, but you can hear it yourself. You don't have to trust anything. And then not only this, the important point here is that James O'Keefe has been basically touting Justin Leslie behind the scenes, masking his face and stuff like that. And you'll see that in the documentary, masking his face and basically being like, this guy is the shit. This guy's top level journalist, just getting in there. He's working hard. He's basically calls him a hero multiple times, whistleblower hero, right? Now that Justin has turned and said, you're not who you say you are, you're a fraud. Justin doesn't exist in James O'Keefe's world. So for years, James O'Keefe was touting this guy, employed him, put him on some of the top, send him out and, do some of these top journalistic endeavors and things like that. And then next thing you know, Justin says, no, you're actually full of crap. And we have all the receipts for it. And now James O'Keefe acts like Justin Leslie doesn't exist. Why is that?
Guys, apologies for this real quick break. In a word about our sponsor. Guys, gold has been on an epic, nearly unstoppable run. It's happening. Central banks are ditching the dollar and U.S. treasuries and buying more gold. The good news? It's predicted that gold will go up a lot more. UBS has even predicted a $5,000 per ounce gold price. And Noble Gold Investments phone has been ringing nonstop. Everybody wants to protect their retirement with gold, and you can do the same. Now, it should be said that there are no investment guarantees. Do your own due diligence. But Noble Gold Investments can help you secure gold to protect your future. From the first day you call Noble Gold Investments, you'll work with a dedicated all-American expert. So whether you're a beginner or an experienced investor, Noble Gold Investments will make sure you get all the help you need. But that's not all. This month, Noble Gold Investments will give you a free 1/4 ounce gold standard coin if you open a qualified account. So go to noblegoldinvestments.com right now. That's noblegoldinvestments.com, or call them directly at 877-646-5347. You'll be glad you did.
Justin says, no, you're actually full of crap, and we have all the receipts for it. And now James O'Keefe acts like Justin Leslie doesn't exist. Why is that?
Yeah. All right. Well, let me cue up another soundbite here. And I think if I have this queued up correctly, it's the undercover video that Justin shot of executives admitting at Pfizer that they gamed the FDA. So we'll play that. Just a note, too, for the audience. The first hour approximately of this documentary, is really just showing you what an excellent undercover journalist, to some degree, it's more than that, but what an excellent undercover journalist Justin is. And, within it, we have claims from Albert Bourla bragging about being in touch with the FBI and the CIA, et cetera, about misinformation or disinformation regarding their bioweapon. And then if you want to really jump to the guts of it, though, where Project Veritas itself becomes a question and an investigation by Justin, you jump to 57 minutes and 30 seconds in the documentary. So let me play this clip and find out what Justin got.
There's a 9 terabyte file of evidence that Veritas is sitting on from all the reporting that I was doing.
During my time inside Pfizer, I obtained a ridiculous amount of footage and, being completely naive, gave all of it over to Project Veritas. Part of the footage that I obtained was from a meeting with Vice President of Biotherapeutics and Pharmaceutical Sciences, Nick Warren. The meeting was called FDA Advisory Committee for Pfizer's COVID vaccines for kids ages 5 to 11. In it, Nick Warren goes on to explain how the buffer system had a minor change during the approval process. Changing this could absolutely affect the stability and storage life of the vaccines.
Thank you, Dr. Gruber. My name is Nick Warren, and I'm in Biotherapeutics Pharmaceutical Sciences. We explored a number of alternate buffer systems to enhance the stability of the RNA LNP products, as well as to allow for lower concentrations to be made available. We have performed an extensive comparability evaluation comparing the two formulations and have found them to be biochemically and pharmaceutically comparable. The only change is in the formulation, which is the last step of the product manufacturer.
I brought all of this up to Nick Warren in detailed notes when I had my meeting with him the first week of November. Within the first 5 minutes, he said that he had gamed the FDA through lying by omission and by not discussing the clinical data related to this new formulation. I actually had 2 meetings with Nick Warren. In the second meeting, after he admitted that Pfizer had gamed the FDA, I went in with a copious amount of notes ready to drill him on this point, even writing in the margins the questions, how else can we game the FDA? And don't we tell them what to do? This was bombshell. It was criminal. It was dangerous and insane. Something like this had to be released to the public. They had a right to know, and they had the right to know right now. To top it off, in early 2023, Steve Kirsch, entrepreneur, philanthropist, environmentalist, and founder of the COVID-19 Early Treatment Fund, wrote an article ripping Reuters for fact-checking a claim about a Pfizer whistleblower having provided vials of the vaccine through chain of custody to Dr. Carrie Madej. Who was the fact-checker of this story but Nick Warren himself?
Of course. Pfizer is fact-checking claims against Pfizer, and they're allowed to do it. Marty, the Republic has fallen. I'm sorry, I keep saying it, but it's true. I don't know how we're going to get this thing back. It's pretty disgusting.
Yeah. Just to mention before too, when you say, we did the first draft of this documentary, and basically what we did was really just focus on the Pfizer inside stuff and that sort of thing. And then we realized after doing it was like, we really need to tell his whole story. So that's why we did it in 2 parts, because the first part, the first hour is essentially setting up everything. And then the second hour, hour and a half is just one after another after another. It's just, it's, as you saw, it's like, it really sort of smacks you in the face with just how much is being revealed. And we just thought it was like, we really wanted to be thorough with it, it was like, let's tell the story so in one sense, so he could just get it off his chest. So people could hear about, like, look at, this is what I've had to undergo the last 3 years, just to let people know that, well, these people are frauds, and that Pfizer is, they're committing genocide. Plain and simple.
Yeah, that is the right word. Yeah, that's the right word. The same thing happens to be happening in Gaza with the Palestinians too, by the way. But officialdom runs cover and says, no, it's not genocide. It's Israel defending its right to exist. Same is true here with Pfizer. I guess Albert Bourla is just defending his right to distribute bioweapons masquerading as vaccines, because that's just good business, Marty.
Yeah, well, biblically, at least this is what we teach at our church anyway. It's this is pharmakia. You know, it would be sorcery through medicine. And that's exactly what these people do. They don't, there's nothing about Pfizer that is there for your health. Nothing. There's
Yep.
nothing about most of these, you know, pharmaceutical companies, especially when you find out that they are the Jews and the Zionists that are behind this. It's 100% Antichrist through and through.
Yeah. Yep. That's the conclusion I've come to. We'll play one more clip here, and this one features Matt Tiramond, a Project Veritas volunteer board member, and a well-connected, you decide what kind of religion he might be, well-connected guy in Washington, D.C., and Marty can comment on this. We'll play the clip here. By the way, that's Nightingale, guys.
Even asking about it was suspicious.
So what did Scott want? I don't want to scare you. He's paranoid. Like, pop your trunk.
By the way, I did get confused by this part. Who's Scott?
Oh, it's just another person that worked at Project Veritas at the time.
Okay, so it wasn't just Justin wanting to know where the hell all this footage went, right?
Oh, no, that's the important point, that there was other people that were working directly with Justin that are not, you know, once again, we'd say useful idiots or whatever you want to call them, whatever, but that were absolutely saying, hey, you know, this is bombshell stuff. An important point. I don't know where this is, you know, what we're going to talk about here, but Nightingale, her husband is Brian Gamble. And Brian Gamble was suited up in riot gear on January 6th, literally opening the gates for the, you know, the onrush of the, you know, the big riot or whatever. It's absolutely, he's admitted it. He admits it in the film. You can clearly see it's him. But why isn't Brian Gamble busted? Why all these other people during the January 6th, you know, insurrection, quote unquote, and all of these people busted, going to jail, still happening right now. But Brian Gamble was there, suited up in riot gear, letting everybody in, but he's not being charged with anything. Well, do you know why? Well, because he's part of the Flynn network. He's completely connected to these people. So, and, you know, basically just goes to show you. I mean, it's one thing that we say at the church essentially is that, like, if you don't have to dig for it, it's probably bullshit, you know?
Yeah.
And so, you know, that's just kind of where it is. But yeah, so that Nightingale is the wife of Brian Gamble, who was clearly and who actually literally worked in digital ops. Like, he was part of the military. So this is a military operation. Well,
that's just crazy. That's nuts. All right. Well, I'm glad I brought up Nightingale. I had no idea about Brian Gamble. Okay. So this is related to Matt Tiramond, a volunteer PV board member. We can talk about who these board members are and, you know, volunteers. Who vetted them? How were they vetted? Listen to this.
Further confirmation that these files were on the server and removed was recorded in the Connecticut Sentinel. The newspaper stated that they had been provided communications between former Project Veritas head James O'Keefe and a PV board member from PV-owned devices and servers. In the exchange, an undisclosed person asks if there was anything important in the M, or microscope, expose. James O'Keefe is recorded saying, "This is a cut down version of the most newsworthy content. This most newsworthy content is on a hard drive and in the possession of PV legal counsel, and that is where it will stay until PV and their lawyers decide to do the right thing and allow the public to see what I witnessed and recorded."
I'll pause it there. Marty, did you have something to say? I saw you point.
What is being mentioned right here with the microscope expose was not even anything that recorded directly inside Pfizer. What ended up happening is that Justin, while he was working at Project Veritas, took some of the vials from inside Pfizer, and then they went and Dr. Carrie Madej and some other people, they went and actually looked what was in the vials, right? Because this was at the time when they were pushing the vaccine and no one really knew what was in the vaccine. Is this graphene oxide? Is this whatever, right? And so he did this whole thing. It was all directed by Project Veritas. There was a meetup. They flew Dr. Carey in. Dr. Carey's actually even spoke directly with Justin on this. And Project Veritas buried the entire story. The entire thing. You never even heard of it. So that was just another story besides all the other stuff that he got that you never saw the light of day. You never heard about it. And the important point is this was all happening while the vax was being pushed into, millions of people's arms.
All right. Well, let's hear what Matt Tyrmand has to say about all this, the PV board member.
Unfortunately, until then, we can file this under the category of the things you never saw.
Project Veritas will never shy away from exposing the truth to the American public. Our job is never done. Stay tuned.
Yeah, I think you got the cut wrong.
I think I did too. Huh. Well, we'll pop out of that clip. I guess I have the time code written down incorrectly, Marty. Well, like I said, I mean, this is nearly 3 hours long, and it is a lot of information to go through. But I got to tell you, man, Justin Leslie is a courageous hero. And if Project Veritas was legit and everybody in the leadership at Project Veritas was like Justin, maybe these guys could change the world. But I am starting to feel like this is a limited hangout, right? It's meant for us to feel good that something is happening. Somebody's doing something about all the corruption, because we know Congress won't. We know the Senate won't. We know the FDA won't, or the CDC. None of them are going to do anything to stop this corruption. So do you think that this is basically a CIA operation to some extent?
We don't have proof of that, direct proof of that, but yes. I mean, I'll just say that that's my take. This is, like most of these things and most of the quote unquote alternative media, the James O'Keefe's, the Charlie Kirks, the Tucker Carlsons, all of these people. And this is what I was saying before. If you've heard of them, if they've been presented to you, it's because they want you to focus on these people, because they want you to think, oh, this guy's saying the right things and this guy's calling out the right people and this, but nothing ever gets done. And meanwhile, while we get the theater and the show, the Republic falls, while we're sort of watching the screen sort of thing. And so we, especially after doing this, it's like at this point, you really need to shut these people off, because as you know, and I know, I mean, I've been buried in the algorithms. Most of the people that are watching this have probably never even heard of me, right? And the reason that is I've been doing this for 12 years, but I'm censored, I'm shadow banned, I'm buried in the algorithms, because if somebody has something actual to say, they're going to make sure that they're going to do everything in their power to make sure you don't hear them. And everybody that I know that actually has something, really, really, well, I would say paradigm breaking, that sort of thing to say, they're censored, they're shadow banned. You don't hear of them. Our friend Dave Weiss, I don't know if he's been on in a while, but he had to make his app just because of all the things he's talking about, completely buried in Google, YouTube, everything like that. So he made an app to say, hey, if you want to find this stuff, here it is. So anything that's worth knowing, they're certainly not going to blast it on NBC and ABC and CBS, or even these alternative media networks,
Yeah.
So, I mean, a perfect example of this, number one, is Justin. You never heard of Justin, right? I mean, another person is Dr. Shiva. He's going to, campaign for president right now. Most people have never even heard of him, but who have you heard of? RFK Jr., Biden, Trump.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it works.
Mm-hmm.
And people really need to get hip to this, because our nation, our heritage, our future, our children's future is at stake. And this is very important stuff, It's not anything to joke around about anymore.
No, I mean, the hour's late. I mean, they're burning down the Republic, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. There are no signed, notarized oath of offices for any of these people. Kamala Harris, Mayorkas, I'm sure Biden hasn't signed one. And that's one of the 45 planks of communism that they wanted to implement to take over this nation. And according to my attorney friend Todd Callender, all 45 planks of communism have been initiated. They have been put into place in this country. That's what's up. Marty, that is what's up. And it's so painful. It's so painful. Well, as we begin to round out the conversation, let's just talk a little bit about the Republic, the fall of the Republic. And it's going to come down to states, isn't it? I just said recently in an interview, they want to balkanize us. That's the goal. They want to bring down the Republic. They want to fracture these 50 states, the United States of America. They want to balkanize us. And ultimately, when you get the patriots moving to red states and fleeing the blue states, and the blue states are easily conquered, they're already conquered, then the red states being balkanized will just be picked apart slowly and over time. Instead of a civil war, I think they're just going to balkanize us and pick us apart slowly over time. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I can't tell the future or anything like that, but that's, I mean, as far as like the communist agenda and hitting all the points, yes, they're doing it. There's no question about it. And so, I just personally, for me, I'm like, we have to face it. We have to face this. We can't run from it. We can't do any of that sort of thing. We have to just hit it head on because, like I said, it's our heritage, it's our nation, it's our religion, is under attack. I mean, you've seen of course, the anti-Semitism and trying to pass the laws. Really, that's a cloak for saying we got to do away with Christianity. We can't. They've rejected the Savior. And so there's going to be people that recognize the group of people that are rejecting the Savior, and we got to shut them up. We got to kill them. We got to sterilize them. We got to put injections in their arm to make sure that we can do what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so, this is I always go, I forget about politics. All of that to me is just sort of secondary because to me, it's all about a spiritual war. And they hate our God, our Lord Jesus Christ. And I will fight for him my entire life. So,
I'd just like to put out a call. If there's any whistleblowers out there that want to try to get in touch with me regarding the prisons and the jail systems in this nation and the way they treat the mentally ill, please reach out to me because I really want to start exposing that. Because as I said to Marty before we hit record, you can judge a nation by the way they treat their prisoners. And in this country, I don't know if y'all know this, but there is such a lack of mental health help in this country. Those with mental illness who find themselves in this criminally corrupt for-profit prison or jail system, they're treated worse than animals. These people, because there are no mental health services, are put in cages alone in solitary confinement 23 and a half hours per day because there is no treatment and the jails are run like Nazi prison camps. That's the nation we live in now, guys. If we don't even treat our prisoners with any compassion, you can't recover. You can't be rehabilitated when they put you in a cage with nothing to do for 23 and a half hours a day. My God, Marty, could you dream? Like you grew up, we're about the same age, brother. Could you have dreamt our nation would be this lost and this corrupt when you were a 10-year-old boy?
No, not even close. And I'm glad you're putting that out for people to say, hey, if you've got some information, now is the time to come forward. Don't be silent. Don't be silent. Get up on the rooftop and shout it. And you also have to know that if you do have information, you're going to have to go to somebody that you can trust. After Justin spoke with me, he's like, okay, I can trust Marty. He's got a track record of just going right into the face of these demons and saying, get effed. And so we can't go to the James O'Keefes anymore. You can't go to Tucker Carlson and be like, oh, I've got something to say, because it's just a charade. So you really need to get into people that have been censored and shadow banned and that sort of stuff. And there are people out there. And so we're the actual new media, dude,
Yeah. Well,
I'm not even a journalist, I mean, I run a church and I'm an author and I do documentaries and stuff like that. But because this was so necessary to get into people's hands, I was like, well, I'll do what I've done before, some journalistic, endeavors and that sort of stuff. And we'll get it out because it's important, And the important point too is that now that this is out, there's been many people that have contacted Justin and said, like, if this would have been out at the time, like, I wouldn't have taken that. I wouldn't have taken that jab. If I would have heard directly from people from Pfizer saying that this is garbage, I wouldn't have done it. So that is the role of the journalist, to make sure that the people are they have the information at hand so they can make real decisions in life and not listen to the fanfare and the propaganda.
Yeah, that's right. Well, let me just say, you are a hell of a lot better journalist than Rachel Maddow or Don Lemon or Sean Boberg from WAPO, who showed up on my doorstep a couple of years ago. You are the real deal, my brother. And I'll tell you this too. There's a lot of infighting in the space, so I wasn't super eager to, throw James O'Keefe under the bus, but we've got to tell the truth. And one of the litmus tests for truth tellers, friends, I say this time and time again, is judge a tree by its fruits over time. And I'll tell you, that's why Marty is a personal friend of mine. I consider him a personal friend of mine because I've known him for a long time and he's the real deal. His fruits are very good. You have very good fruits, Marty. How do people follow you, support you, and tell people about your church, your new book you're working on, anything you'd like?
Yeah, well, we just did before the documentary, we just did a children's book. And then we did the documentary, and then we just have a new book coming out right now. It's basically the tenets of our order. And so that's going to be out in the next month or so. And then we do church service it's online, 9 a.m. Central Standard Time on my channels, Rumble, Rockfin, YouTube. And we do, let's just say, intensive Bible study. We go right into that. We go line by line. We look up the etymology, and I mean, just and it's and the group of people that we've sort of corralled, and that sort of thing, the congregation, or I don't mean to toot my own horn or anything like that, but they're fantastic people. They're based as hell. They're super smart. They're the love that comes from that group of people is I'm humbled by it, so the fact that I get to lead that is just amazing. So, and we're just pardon my language, but no bullshit. We're going to find truth. We're going to hit it right in the head. We're going to surround it 360 degrees, and then we're going to go to the rooftop and tell everybody about it. And that's what we do. So,
Can people follow you though, or sign up? Like, I mean, give us some websites, give us some actionables, will you?
GnosticAcademy.org is the best place to find us. GnosticAcademy.org. Otherwise, you can find us on YouTube, Gnostic Academy, Rumble, Gnostic Academy, Rockfin, Gnostic Academy, and everything is free as far as like the sermons and that sort of stuff. All the documentaries that I've ever done have always been free. Any of the journalistic stuff I do is always free because it just should be. And so yeah, and tons of books. Like I think we're on our sixth, seventh book, something like that now. So there's tons of information, and yeah, and it's like I said, it's a really good group of people. So
Well, and just real quickly, for anybody who doesn't understand the word Gnostic and thinks that's some New Age term or a Freemasonic term, and they're just fuzzy about what Gnostic means, explain that quickly, will you?
Gnostic, at the end of the day, just means knowledge. That's all it is. And the only knowledge that we seek, it's literally on the first page of our tenets of the order, is to understand and know God's will. That's it. God has a way, just as Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. He has a pathway for us. And that's to live in truth, to live in integrity, live in virtue, live in, righteousness, that sort of thing. And in order to do that, you need to know what those things are. So that's what Gnosis is really all about. And this is what we teach. This is exactly what we write in our books. It's like all we want to do is know God's will, and we want to follow that to a T and live that out in our lives. It has nothing to do with demiurge or satanic or anything like that. We are a Christian church. I have a 550-page book called Lord Jesus Christ, in which we, detail all of this sort of stuff. And so yeah, that's it.
All right, brother. Well, thank you so much for reaching out. And of course, Justin is welcome on the show anytime. It'd be great to have you and Justin together. However that shakes out, you let me know. I appreciate you very much, man.
Thank you so much, Sean. Thank you for getting this out. We really appreciate you.
Oh, back at you. Thanks for coming on. Friends, I want to thank each and every one of you as well. And I remind you every single day, check us out for free to get the real news, the antidote to Don Lemon and Rachel Maddow's lies every single day. Avoid that mockingbird mainstream propaganda by visiting us directly at sgtreport.com. And until next time, may God bless you and yours, friends. Bye-bye.
Where I am, I don't follow their rules. I don't care what Biden, I don't even pay attention to what he has to say. I am fighting for freedom at all costs. We're in a war between good and evil. And if good people that tell the truth stop telling the truth because they're afraid of something happening, then they've already won.